What's up everyone, Larry here, and on behalf of the Joyful Noise Music Studio in Fenton, welcome to another edition of Tours, Tips, and Tricks. Today, we're going to set up your guitar for tour. Welcome back everyone, thanks for joining us today. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe this video, this channel, everything we've got on social media, including our blog. A lot of details about even today's video is going to be found at our Joyful Noise Music Studio blog, so check the link below. And what we're going to do with the computer here is just simply get a virtual guitar amplifier. I've got the STL Tones Howard Benson. You should see some reviews of this actual plugin on our channel, so link below, or just navigate throughout the YouTube channel here so you can find the review of this thing. But it serves really well when I'm setting up my guitar because I can just look at the tuner right here on screen. I don't have to worry about getting my pedal board out and setting the rig up any stand or anything like that, right? Just keep things simple, right? So I've got the cord, got my lovely Schecter here, my go-to guitar. Off screen here, I've got some tools that I've mentioned in some of our blogs before, such as the Ernie Ball Power Peg, makes things faster. Got some string clippers that come inside of the Ernie Ball Musician's Toolkit. Really great kit for just, quick access. This is a little Boss screwdriver I picked up separately, but as you can see, all kinds of Allen heads, a little winder there in case you need one. There's a ruler in there. I've got some X-Acto knives, screwdriver, everything like that. So great kit. I got my polish over there as well. So rather than bore you guys with just changing strings here, I'll try to stop periodically and we'll just advance through the process of what I do for setting up this guitar. So let's get started. And done. Gotta love that time-lapse technology we have these days, right? Let's give this guitar a little clean once over, but I did want to stop real quick just to let you know, this is an ebony fretboard. And a lot of guitar players agree that with ebony, since it's such a hard, almost, I don't want to say brittle, but just a very dense material, dense wood, cleaning it is not as necessary as like a maple fretboard, or especially a rosewood that needs to breathe and soak in like lemon oils and stuff like that. But it is good to still try to clean it as much as possible. So every time I change my strings, I do take a little bit of guitar polish and just give it a nice little once over. But as far as really getting in there or worrying too much about like any kind of lemon oil, I rarely do that. Maybe like once a year, just because of how dense the wood is. So let's clean this up real quick. If you're playing your guitar and up at your 1st and 3rd fret, right, it feels like it's super low, and you look down on your 12th or 14, 16, right, and it's really high, okay, that means your truss rod needs some action, needs some adjustment, okay? So the truss rod cover needs to be just pulled off, or some guitars, it's down here at the base, okay? So just depending on what guitar that you have, make sure you adjust the truss rod first. Get that neck in position first. When we set the intonation of the guitar, right, the full setup, the final part of the setup, that's got to be the last step after you've done everything, because we want the proper tension on the guitar first, which includes the truss rod and the strings. So let's get some strings on this real quick. Now, a lot of people are going to ask, how many times should I wrap the string around the tuner head up here? Right, some people like a lot of wraps, some people like not a lot at all. It just depends on your preference. I like to have at least probably 2 or 3 around my tuners up here personally. So I usually go somewhere like every other, right, is kind of the distance I like to measure. So like from the E string here, I'm going to go up here to the D string spot, and just before it is kind of where I'll save my finger, back it up right there, crimp it, put my tuner lock in place. And that should be a good distance for me to get about 2, maybe 3 wraps around. Okay, strings are on. Everything is just a little bit sharp, tuned up just a little bit sharp on purpose. Like I said, I like to create just a little bit of extra tension, because now our next step before we check the intonations, right, start messing with all the saddles down here, we need to make sure that the action, the height of the strings feels pretty good, okay? It's not gonna sound perfect or sound great at all, actually, but we wanna make sure that everything feels okay in our hand. Then we'll move down to the intonations next. Now, when I pop open this truss rod cover here, and I get my handy dandy Allen wrench for it, I want you to notice that the turns are not going to be very big. They may look it, and I may really be cranking on it, but the truth is when you're bending the neck of the guitar, you don't need to make huge adjustments to make just micromillimeters of difference here, okay? So let's take this just a little turn at a time and see where I can get that string height. We will need to try to retune the guitar every single time just to make sure that the tension stays accurate. Now, when I just mentioned tension on the guitar, you got to keep in mind that not just the truss rod is going to affect your string height, okay? Obviously, these saddles down here have their own string height adjustments as well, which will affect the intonation directly, but also the tension of the guitar. So, like I said, before we get to this final step here of adjusting the intonation to make sure the E standard tuning for this particular purpose stays true, you got to make sure the tension of the guitar is absolutely in place. The action is where you want it. It feels good in your hands. You've tuned it a couple times, played with it. All of the guitar has adjusted to it. Now we're going to fine tune it. All right, now the time has come to actually start intonating this guitar. So keep in mind, if it's sharp, we got to loosen it. We got to bring it back a little. If it's flat, we got to tighten it. We got to lift it up a little bit. That's in reference to your saddles down here and knowing which direction to move them as far as dialing intonation, okay? So your first thing you're going to do is you're going to put the guitar right here. Okay, play your open E string. Make sure it's in tune. Then you need to come down to the 12th fret and check the tuning. Give it a good strum. Don't be sensitive. Don't be light about it. Okay, open once again. There we go. Looks like that one's actually really well intonated. It's the same note when I'm open as it is when I'm on the 12th fret. Okay, so that's our concept. That's how we go about this. Let's check the next string. We got the A string. So our B string, this will be the same concept of all the rest of them. B string open. It's not in tune. We got to tune it first. Okay, great. We know it's in tune. Now check it on the 12th fret. It's a little flat. A little flat, which means we need to tighten the saddle, okay? We need to be moving the saddle in the direction that'll help tighten it, okay? And since the saddles add tension the further you move towards the nut, that means tighten, okay? So in this case here, like we said, we know that it's flat. We got to tighten it, right? We got to lift up that tension a little bit more. So let's go ahead and do that. Very little turns is all you'll need. Do not turn those screws on those saddles more than like one full time each time you're checking this, okay? So once again, you got to tune the string, all right? Up to B here. Make sure it's... Now let's check at the 12th fret. And there we go. Don't forget about A Joyful Noise Music Studio merch available on our website, link in the description below, or stop by the studio anytime and pick up your Joyful merch today. And there you have it, a simple approach on how to set up your guitar when you're preparing for tour or a bunch of shows coming up here. Okay, once again, first things first after changing these strings is make sure the tension of the guitar is correct. meaning the truss rod, maybe even the saddle height, okay? Which goes into the next part, making sure your action of the guitar, the string height is comfortable, everything feels good. And each time you're kind of tuning the guitar, retuning the guitar along the way, before finally coming to check the intonations. Everything else needs to be in play, in position where you want it first. Then you come and check these saddles, right? Open string and then the 12th fret each time. Play it a few times. If it feels good, you're ready to rock. Well, thanks so much for stopping by this edition of Tours, Tips, and Tricks. My name is Larry on behalf of the Joyful Noise Music Studio in Fenton, reminding you and encouraging you to keep making noise. See you around.